Hi everyone, how are you? I hope you're doing good with your study, with your work, and with your study online. Okay. Alright, so with this slide, with our presentation, I'm going to introduce you about methods of data collection. How many of you here know how to collect the data before? Because I heard some of you told me that you used to collect the data for your company, for your school, for your institutions, right? Okay, now let's go. Okay, so at the end of this slide video presentations, all of you are expected to identify key terms in methods of data collections. Select the method of data collection properly, find out sources for gathering data or information, and finally, conduct a tool for data collection in terms of population or respondents. Okay. So, how many methods of data collections, everyone? Now you can see there are two main methods of data collections. The first one and the second one is secondary data method, and the second one is primary data method. All right, so how many of you know what secondary data method is and as well as primary data method is? Okay, so go one by one. The questions: what is the secondary data collection methods? So who can tell me now? Can you talk to yourself about the secondary data collection? If you were a researcher, so how would you collect the data from the secondary sources? I give you several seconds. All right, good. Now, what is it? Can you tell me? Or can you tell us about that? Okay. And also give example to support your opinion. This is definition or explanation of secondary data collection methods. It is mainly referred to the data already gathered, such as documents, government publication, census, articles, journals, magazine, books, personal records, or an early research. Okay. So if you want to collect the data from the secondary sources, you have to find out documents which are relevant to your topic, which are relevant to your areas of studies. If your studies about vocabulary, for example, you have to find out any books, any journals, any magazines that you can use to get some ideas on pieces of information from that sources. Okay, from those sources. All right. So did you know that this is the how we collect the data from secondary sources? Now, the data will be selected and chosen and analyzed or interpreted in a various way. We have mechanism to interpret, to analyze the data that you get from the secondary sources. Okay. Next question is, what is the primary data collection method? I give you one second to define the term primary data collection method. What is it? Okay. So, what is it? Can you tell me? All right. So primary data collection method is not dependent on documents, books, or like secondary sources. Like I mentioned earlier, the data comes from three ways of data collection. One we call the observation, the second one we call interviewing, and another one we call questionnaire. So how many of you know the term observation? Okay, observation. So how can you observe in order to get some information or to get data from population or respondent? And how can you interview? So the word how. Now you know what, but you don't know how to do it, right? So you know what observation, you know what interview, and you know what questionnaire. But you don't know how to conduct observation, conduct interviewing, and also conduct a questionnaire, so that you can get some pieces of information which is relevant to your study. Okay. Now we go one by one about that. What is observation? What is interviewing? What is the questionnaire? And how could the researchers conduct the observation, interviewing as well as questionnaires? All right. So yes, this is what the data collections from primary data collection method. Okay, so you have to underline, interpret the same as, not the same as secondary sources, right? We have a different tool from that. Okay, so secondary sources, we just get the data from the books, journal, any material, government publications, so on. However, primary data collection method, the data comes from interviewing, observation, and also questionnaire. But as a researcher, you have to know how to analyze and interpret the data that you get from. This is the structures of data collection method, right? So the outline, right? We call secondary sources like document, government publication, book, census, earlier research, or so on. Okay. And primary sources, we have observation, interviewing, questionnaire. So observation can be observation, participant observation, and also non-participant observation. And then interviewing, we have structured interviewing and non-structured or unstructured interviewing. Also, finally, a questionnaire, mail questionnaire, and collective questionnaire. So we are going to study about each one. All right. So observation, participant observation, and non-participant observation. Okay. So now let's go. So the question: what is the observation method? Can you check your? Can you work with your smartphone and check the Google about observation method in research? So what is observation method in research? I give you a few seconds. Okay, so let's go. Let's start. All right. So what is it? Observation method. Here, this is the explanation of the observation method. The observation method is one of the collecting of data collecting tools that the researcher always use for the primary sources. Okay, for primary sources, it is a purposeful, systematic, and selective ways of watching and listening to interaction or phenomenon or situation that it takes place, right? That it takes place. So the researcher have to watch, have to listen carefully in order to write down and take note some information which is relevant to your to his or her purpose. Okay. In order to find the the data, you have to identify your research objective, so research purpose, right? So with this research purpose, you can use observation method to collect the data from it. All right. So you have to watch, you have to listen, you have to interact situation, you have to interact environment, you have to interact people around you in order to get some information, get some data from those people. All right. And this observation method become most important, become very most important tool, because it is the most appropriate method of data collection in many situations, in many phenomena. All right. It doesn't matter that the researcher use the observation method to to collect the data from any situation, okay, any situation, any respondents, okay. There are two types of observation method. One is called participant observation and non-participant observation. Okay, you will see explanation of each. So before we go to the details of participant observation, let me ask all of you, what is it? Can you work again? Can you check again, or can you work with your smartphone again to type key term participation observation? Participant observation in your Google or browser Google, and then read carefully. All right, so I give you several seconds. Okay, so let's go. Participant observation, the participant has to participate in any activity of the group being observed in the same manner as its member, so with or without their knowing that they are being observed, right? For example, your areas of the study is about teaching grammar deductively, all right, deductively. So this is your topic, this is your issue, that you want to observe how grammar is taught deductively in the classroom. Otherwise, the research have to participate in the activity in the classroom, and then you can teach the students. You can teach your student by using deductive method or deductive approach to the student. While teaching, also you have to observing what happened to student, and what happened to your teaching style, and how can you deliver your your method in teaching grammar to the student. Okay, so that's why you have to observe, and after that you have to write down what what improvements should we make next step, and what challenges that you faced, and then you have to make it improvement, okay, better and better. That's the participant observation. Next, what is the non-participant observation? Similarly, I give you several seconds, and I ask all of you to check this key term in the Google, okay, in the Google non-participant observation. So what is it? Now, can you start now? Okay, so let's go. It is opposite, it is not like participant observation. So the researcher, if the researcher want to get some information from a group being observed, he or she does not let a group of people being observed know who he or she is, right? And they just pretend to be the observer, and they just have their tool or their checklist, and with their own objective or research purpose, what information that they want to get from the a group being observed. Okay, for example, your areas of the study is about teaching grammar deductively, so you have to go to the classroom and you do nothing. You just sit and watch and listen to the teacher and observe the student activity, studying grammar from the teacher, and then you have to write a conclusion about that. Okay, so that's all for this slide video presentation. And now let me recap what you study with this slide video presentation. Okay, so with this you learn the key terms. All right, so how many key terms you study from this slide video presentation? So one, you know about the method of data collection, like secondary sources or primary sources. So secondary sources, you get the data from books, from journal, from the government publication, from the previous research, right, finding, so on and so forth, as well. And then the primary sources, the data gains from interviewing, observation, and also questionnaire, right? So with the observation, we have participant observation and non-participant observation. And also interviewing, we next slide video presentation, I'm going to talk about interviewing. Okay, so let's follow me. All right. So finally, so thank you very much for joining me, and hope you are doing good with this video presentation. Now, the next video, I'm going to introduce you how to conduct interviewing so that you can get information from that tool. All right. So have a nice day. See you.